Hey, it's the holiday season, and what better thing to do than to drink when you're going to be stuck around your family, right, Megan?
That's right.
Yeah, so this week we're joined by a whole group of people. We have Scott and Cassie and John and Megan and our bar regular, Norm, right at the corner. Welcome, Norm. Norm!
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we welcome you back. Anyway, this is the 8. Coming up, the 8 most important things in franchising, exactly what you need to know before whatever. Let's get this started. All right, so first, as we kick off this week's The 8, with 8 of us. Just kidding, there's not 8 of us. I found a way to give John a beer. So let me. Will you hold this for a second, Megan?
Yeah.
If you could just do some play-by-play on what's happening.
Nick is opening the refrigerator. He's pulling out a beer. He's opening the beer. Oh, it's cold.
That's incredible.
He placed it on a a coaster.
The Imperial Pumpkin.
It's a pumpkin beer.
It's a really yummy beer. So Sean has criticized us for not having the lavalier set up. I promise you, audience, it's coming soon, but it almost makes it better when I get to walk around and just put a mic in people's faces. Right, Sean?
I suppose so.
Okay. And Scott, any comments before we get started with 8?
I'm pumped and ready to go. Let's do it.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
I'm pumped and ready to go. Let's do it.
No, I was trying to move the mic away because people laughed about that in the past. All right, so number 8, The Buzz. I don't know, where is it going to appear this week, Megan? Somewhere up here? Yeah. Okay. The Buzz? Okay. The Buzz. Hold on. The Buzz. New York Times reported that U.S. retail sales industrial output data point to slowing growth after 2 months of strong increases in retail sales. Reports show sales tapered off in November. John, I'm going to go to you with this because you get great data being at FranNet. First of all, before you dive into talking about sales from a retail standpoint and what you're seeing, tell us a little bit about FranNet just so that our audience knows what you do and how you do it.
Well, FranNet is an international broker service. We've got about 120 consultants across the U.S., Canada, as well as Germany. And we work with aspiring entrepreneurs and would-be business owners to help them find a franchise that kind of uniquely fits them, their lifestyle and goals and budget, and sets them up for success as a small business franchise owner.
Okay, and you can find their site. Their Canadian franchise is actually on 1851. So if you use the search bar, you can find all the great press about FranNet. So let's talk about retail sales slowing. Do you think that was because of the presidential election? Is that affecting franchise sales? Are people holding back before they buy a franchise? What are you seeing in respects to that?
Yeah, it was weird. Usually in an election year, you do see everything goes a little haywire because people are unsure what's going to happen. We didn't see that this year. We actually saw an uptick in sales and actually set an all-time record in sales for 2016. Ironically, with all that said, November was a little bit of a weird month. I think people started kind of getting to the realization that there could be a real change happening in America. And I think they kind of backed off a lot of things. I think you're going to see that pick back up in December and moving into the new year because we typically see a big uptick as people start back into the new year.
That's great insight. And Sean, obviously, you've spoken about this before, but what are your takes on retail sales slowing and what does that mean in the coming year?
I kind of agree with what John was saying. I think when November was such a unique political climate that we've had never seen before, and I think just people kind of took a step back. The good news is I think they're going to come back pretty strong first quarter of 2017. Hopefully that'll impact all industries.
Yeah, a lot of you franchisors out there, I know that you guys typically scale back when it comes to November and December, but based on what John and Sean are saying, maybe it's time to ramp up before the new year starts to get an edge on the competition. So let's go to Brand of the Week, which it happens to be FranNet this week. Congratulations, your Brand of the Week. I think it would be valuable for key points first for Scott and Sean to talk about their experience with FranNet because both of you have worked with FranNet on the franchisor side. So I'll start with you Scott. Just some insight on working with FranNet and some things you need to know about their brand.
Well, I think one of the key things that I always liked about working with FranNet was that their consultants are geographically based. So they know their local markets, they're working with candidates in specific areas. And so for franchisors that just don't have huge open territories available and you're looking to get into a particular market, here's somebody that you can partner with that has their pulse on what candidates are looking for and how to position yourself to those folks in the markets where you're looking for folks. And I think it gives them a big advantage over other types of potential business brokers that just are canvassing everywhere and don't help you with a very specific marketplace.
Okay, that's great feedback. And Sean, let's go to you. Other points on FranNet?
What I really liked about FranNet is that they have a limited portfolio. So just like a franchisor is trying to be selective on who they bring into their system, FranNet does the same thing with the brands that they represent. So they're just not taking everybody in and trying to just sell franchise opportunities to everybody. They're going to be very selective on who they bring in. And from a franchisor perspective, it's great. And from a candidate perspective, I think it's good too.
Okay, and John, just some insight for those that are actually looking at buying a franchise. What does FranNet provide to them?
Well, the best thing we provide them is guidance and counseling. You know, a lot of people don't even explore the opportunity of business ownership because they're afraid of the fear alone of what they might find. What FranNet helps them do is guide them and counsel them through the process because we've been there. We know what questions to ask. We know what research they need to do. The best thing about the entire process, kind of the beauty of it, is absolutely no cost to them. We work more like an executive recruiter, if you want to think of it that way. Whereas we help them with all the research, we guide them through the entire process. We introduce them to concepts that match them uniquely. We guide them throughout the entire process. And if they ultimately invest into that franchise, the franchise pays us a fee. So it doesn't cost them a penny more or a penny less than they were to do it completely on their own or if they would work with FranNet.
And obviously, you have access to data points across many brands, which probably gives more insight than the single brand's going to give that prospect.
Oh yeah, and we can also get access to certain. We have access to certain candidates that a franchisor cannot get into, like outplacement or within the government agencies who are counseling people on new business development. We have access to those types of opportunities where a franchisor could not get their foot in the door.
That's great. Great feedback. So let's move on to the people story. This week we're talking about Sylvan, Ranjit, and Sophia Wasu owning a brand. Let's just talk broadly about some of the people stories that we're featuring. Megan, I'll go to you first. You can talk specifically about Sylvan first and then other people that we have in our current issue.
Yeah, I recently interviewed a couple who had been franchisees with Sylvan for over a decade, and then they exited the system. And it's really interesting to get that kind of perspective from franchisees after they've been through the process and are now on the outside of it, to hear what a positive experience they've had, even like from the beginning throughout, and then even the process that they had in transitioning from franchisees to passing it on to other people. They had nothing but incredible things to say about the entire experience, which is a really great validator for the brand.
That's great. And Cassie, maybe some insights to some of the folks that you're interviewing?
Particularly with Sylvan, I think that Megan kind of touched on this, but one of the common themes that we found is that everyone is really excited about where the brand is going in the future. Not only have they had a great experience so far, but the brand is constantly working to kind of stay ahead of the curve, be ahead of the trends, and be the brand to beat within their industry. And I think that that's just really kind of across the board great to have.
That's great. Yeah, so obviously if you're on our site, you can look at any of our franchisee voices. We have plenty of stories that highlight the people behind these brands. The beauty of franchise brands is they're led by operators at the local level. And here at 1851, we try to give you some insight into those who are making waves at the local level. So be sure to check out our people section for more stories there. In our profit section, we have a story, Bigger and Better. Frisch's gets a 2016 makeover on verge of significant franchise growth in 2017. While 2016 focus was on shoring up operations and enhancing the overall restaurant model and menu, Frisch's is now ready to grow in 2017. Sean, you've looked at this brand fairly closely. What do you like about Frisch's in 2017?
Besides the burgers.
And from being from Cincinnati. No, I think it's a great, NRD Capital getting involved with Frisch's, I think it was a great move. Put together a great team, starting with the executive, Jason Vaughn, who I think was a great CEO for Frisch's and leading it in the next direction. So I think great legacy brand, iconic brand, great products, and now I think they're going to be ready to take it to the next level.
That's great. So another story, our Places story this week, Phoenix Business Journal reported that Dairy Queen is launching their Phoenix expansion plans, another iconic brand setting their path in Arizona, another brand that we're featuring that is highlighting their growth. For any of you brands out there that want to highlight growth or talk about a specific market, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to cover those stories. Continuing on, columns this week, I wrote about what businesses can learn from Trump versus Clinton campaign. Should you hide your business flaws or show them? And I'm not going to get too deep into the political structure in our bar roundtable. However, Sean, I'm going to go to you on this because I think you might have an opinion on this. What I found interesting about the campaign, and whoever won, you look at it from a marketing standpoint, Clinton was a little bit more reserved on proactively addressing emails. Trump came out there and said, it is what it is. Here I am in full exposure. Ultimately, that won him the election in some way. Candidates, brands, being truthful. What are your takes on it? Should brands, if you know that something's going to come up in due diligence, should they come out and be in front of that and expose it online, or should they hide it? What can we learn from the election as it relates back to marketing?
A great question, especially with candidates doing their due diligence and validation. I think it's much better to be proactive and be able to talk about if there are going to be some hurdles or negative things they may hear in validation, to address it so that way when they do hear about it, they're prepared for it. And honestly, I think it takes a little bit of the sting out of it. If they already kind of know about it and how, and explain if there is an issue or something that was an issue, it's been corrected, that it's been addressed. And then I think the candidate will respect you for doing that as well.
All right, so we can obviously learn some things from the election as it relates back to franchise marketing. In the media this week, Fast Casual had a story that said, are kiosks killing jobs? Current events begged the question, but the facts say otherwise. Despite rumors, franchise CEOs ensure that kiosks are not here to take over jobs. John, your thoughts on kiosks? Will they eliminate the job at the local level?
Well, I'm curious to see when the artificial intelligence kiosk begins to take over jobs. Until that happens, I think kiosks are there to create jobs and not at all to take away the jobs that are out there and available to people.
Okay. Megan, your thoughts?
I think it'll serve to free up time for people so that they can focus more on customer satisfaction rather than having to be behind a counter taking orders. They can be out there making sure the customers are happy with their orders and see if they need anything else.
Okay. And for you guys watching, and I'm sorry to do this in real time. Sean, do you want to wheel in the kiosk? Scott, we've replaced you.
It's been fun. I've had a great time. I'm available if anyone needs anyone.
Don't watch that. Turn off those cameras. All 4 people of you watching this thing. Okay. So lastly, thought of the week. How does franchise marketing work? I figure we have a marketing expert here. Is it a collective of everything working together? How should franchisors evaluate what is working? I'll let you go first, but everybody's going to get a shot on this one. So think of your answer there, Sean. We don't want you to be stuck there with a one-word answer like previous week. So, John, you're up first.
Right. I think franchise marketing is a total brand piece. It's not SEO. It's not pay-per-click. It's not PR, as much as I hate to say that in your presence. It's a collective. A collective items of things that the way that the brand presents itself. It's the way that it talks about itself. It's the imagery. It's the way the facilities are set up. It's the people within the facility, the people within the establishment. All of those make up the brand. All of those are franchise marketing. So trying to separate one from another and saying that one is theoretically more important than the other really discounts the ability of the brand to be able to grow the business.
Yeah, there's some great insight there. Scott, I'm going to go over to you. What are your thoughts on franchise marketing? What advice do you have for franchisors out there looking to get in front of the right prospects?
So epiphany is that there are no silver bullets. It's not going to be one thing that really drives leads and drives franchise growth. It's going to be a combination of several things. And the challenge will be in terms of tracking that, because it's really easy to say, I placed an ad and I got these phone calls. Well, it just doesn't work like that anymore. Everything's blended together. They may see an ad, then go to your website, then check out social media, and then eventually the lead will come in from somewhere that you weren't even tracking, and they say, okay, well, that ad didn't work because they didn't reference the ad when they came in. And it's just making sure that you're on as many platforms as possible so that when people are doing their research, you're coming up often enough. It's like recency, relevancy. Have they seen you recent enough to be relevant when it's time for them to start doing their investigation?
Yeah, that's great. Cassie, thoughts?
I think it's really a combination of telling a bunch of different stories from the corporate franchisor perspective, the franchisees, the consumers that consistently come into these stores, and getting those stories and reasons why people are consistently returning to a brand in front of the right people, and that's ultimately what's going to continue moving franchises forward.
Yeah, and obviously with Cassie and Megan on our team as our key writers or lead writers on 1851, we're finding ways to tell the stories in different ways. So thanks for that insight, Cassie. Sean?
My philosophy has always been marketing is everything and everything is marketing. So it's a lot of doing a lot of things like everybody was kind of saying here. When it comes to franchise development, I think the day of selling is over. It's educating. So, educate candidates and it'll be much more effective than just selling.
Okay, and Megan?
I mean, just to repeat what everyone else said, I think it is the entire package. It is really telling the brand story through its people, through its product, through its ambitions, through its potential. All of those things combined really work.
That was a great answer, and your arms didn't move that time. So nice work there. That's a first for Megan. So all you out there, do a silent.
Which one was the best?
John. John wins. Congratulations, you win a beer. Hey, thank you for watching the 8. We appreciate it, and hopefully you got some good tidbits out of our great group today. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.